The chair at the back of the classroom was never just a chair. It carried a weight that no one wanted to talk about. Every morning, when the teacher called the roll, one name always lingered unanswered. Ethan Carter. Silence, heads lowered, pencils scratched nervously across paper. The same empty seat waited day after day, untouched, gathering more dust than memories. At first, students glanced back whenever his name was spoken, as if half expecting him to appear, late but smiling. But weeks passed, then months, and their glances stopped. They learned to ignore it, the way people train themselves not to look at something that hurts too much. On this morning, though, the silence cracked. A new girl had just transferred in, her backpack stiff and spotless. When the teacher called Ethan's name, she leaned toward the classmate beside her and whispered, "Who's missing? Doesn't anyone sit there?" The question hung in the air like a challenge. A few kids shifted in their seats. One boy let out a sharp laugh and quickly covered it, but most stayed quiet, their eyes darting anywhere except that chair. The teacher cleared his throat and moved down the list, but the damage was done. The room felt different now, unsettled, because behind that empty chair was a story none of them had ever really faced, a story they had all tried to bury under silence, and though no one spoke his name out loud, they were all thinking the same thing. Ethan. The memory of Ethan came in flashes, the kind you don't realise matter until they're gone. He wasn't the loud kid, the class clown, or the star athlete. He was the boy who slipped you a spare pencil during a test when yours snapped in half. He was the one who stayed behind in the library, leaning over a textbook, breaking down problems until the numbers finally stopped swimming on the page. Maya remembered those afternoons clearly. She had nearly given up on math more times than she could count, but Ethan never rolled his eyes, never made her feel small. He just kept saying, "You'll get it. Don't quit just because it's hard." And the way he said it, calm, steady, like he actually believed in her, was sometimes the only reason she kept trying. But Ethan's own life wasn't steady. His father had fallen sick, the kind of sickness you don't bounce back from. Even while his dad was in and out of the hospital, Ethan still showed up to school, eyes shadowed from late nights stocking shelves at the grocery downtown. Some mornings he came in wearing the same wrinkled shirt as the day before, his backpack straps fraying where he'd patched them with duct tape. Then the day came when his father didn't come home at all. And just like that, neither did Ethan. At first, everyone expected him back. A week, maybe 2, but weeks stretched into months. The chair in the back stayed empty and people stopped asking questions. It was easier that way. High school has a way of moving on, even when someone can't. The truth was harsher. While the rest of them complained about essays and talked about prom, Ethan was clocking shifts, stacking boxes, making sure his little sister had a lunch packed every morning. His education hadn't ended. It had just shifted, from textbooks and classrooms to survival. The empty chair wasn't just about someone who left. It was about the weight one boy had carried alone, while the rest of them looked away. Reactions to Ethan's absence were never the same. A few kids admitted they missed him, though they only whispered it to close friends. Most just shrugged and moved on. Homework, basketball games, weekend parties. High school doesn't stop for anyone, not even for someone like Ethan. But Tyler made sure the silence was never completely silent. Tyler was the kind of boy who soaked up attention, the star forward on the basketball team, always strutting through the halls as if the world owed him a cheer. Whenever the teacher called Ethan's name during roll, Tyler smirked and muttered just loud enough to be heard. "Guess he's too busy bagging groceries." Sometimes he added, "Maybe he's finally where he belongs." The words hit harder than laughter. A couple of kids chuckled nervously, not because they thought it was funny, but because standing up to Tyler meant risking becoming his next target. Others glanced down at their desks, pretending not to hear. The silence, once again, became its own kind of cruelty. Maya felt it every time. Her stomach twisted, remembering the way Ethan once sat beside her in the library, patient and kind, never making her feel dumb for not understanding. She wanted to speak up, to shut Tyler down, but her voice caught in her throat. High school had a way of punishing the ones who defended the wrong person. And so Ethan's chair remained empty, but not forgotten. It was mocked by some, ignored by most, and quietly mourned by the few who had known the depth of his kindness. Maya couldn't stop looking at the empty chair. To most it was just furniture, another desk in the back row. But to her, it was a reminder of a voice that used to steady her when nothing else could. She remembered one afternoon in the library when she sat slumped over a math workbook, ready to give up. Numbers blurred together, frustration stung at her eyes. Ethan sat across from her, his pencil tapping lightly against the page. "Don't quit just because it's hard," he told her, his voice calm but firm. "You'll get it, and if you don't, I'll stay until you do." He had said it so simply, as if it wasn't a big deal. But to Maya, it was everything. No one else had ever made her feel that her effort mattered more than her mistakes. He didn't laugh when she got it wrong. He didn't act like helping her was a burden. He just stayed, patient and steady, until her face finally lit up with understanding. Now, months later, the memory cut deeper. She had never really thanked him. She had never told him that those words stuck with her on nights when she wanted to slam the book shut and walk away from everything. And she hated that Tyler's cruel jokes were louder than the gratitude Ethan deserved. Maya whispered his name under her breath, so softly that no one else could hear. Ethan. It felt like a promise she was making to herself, that she wouldn't let the world erase him, no matter how quiet the chair at the back of the room became. A few weeks later, the principal's voice echoed through the intercom during morning announcements. The annual awards ceremony was coming up, the night when students would be recognised for grades, leadership, and sports. It was the kind of event people whispered about in hallways, even if they pretended they didn't care. The moment the announcement ended, the classroom erupted in chatter. Names flew back and forth like rumours. Who was going to win for academics? Who would be honoured for athletics? Tyler leaned back in his chair, tossing a basketball from one hand to the other, a grin spreading across his face. "Pretty sure I've got this year's sports award locked in," he bragged, his voice carrying across the room. "Guess all that practice actually pays off." His friends laughed, nodding along, and Tyler's eyes flicked toward Maya with a smirk. "Don't worry," he added, "they don't give out trophies for grocery bagging. Your boy Ethan wouldn't stand a chance." The laughter that followed wasn't loud, but it was enough. Maya felt her chest tighten, her nails digging into her notebook. She wanted to snap back, to remind Tyler that Ethan had given more to others than any trophy could measure. But instead, she stayed silent, the words trapped in her throat. In high school, going against someone like Tyler meant painting a target on your back. Still, her thoughts wouldn't let go. The awards were supposed to celebrate character, to honour the ones who made a difference. And yet the person who had done that more than anyone, the boy who had given his time, his patience, his steady belief in others, was the one name nobody mentioned. Her eyes drifted once again to the empty chair. And in that moment, Maya made herself a quiet promise. If no one else remembered Ethan, she would. That afternoon, Maya took her usual route home, cutting across Main Street. The air carried the faint chill of early spring, the kind that made you hug your jacket tighter. As she passed the corner grocery, she slowed. Through the glass windows, beneath the hum of fluorescent lights, she saw him. Ethan. He was bent over a stack of boxes, arms straining as he lifted them onto a shelf. His shirt was wrinkled, sleeves rolled halfway up, and his hands looked rough, marked by work no high schooler should have to shoulder. He moved with the steady rhythm of someone who didn't have a choice, because slowing down meant bills went unpaid and food didn't make it to the table at home. Maya almost walked past, but then she noticed a small boy standing by the counter, clutching a math worksheet with crumpled edges. The boy's mother was a few aisles away, filling a basket with bread and milk. Ethan crouched down to the child's level, wiping his hands on his jeans before taking the pencil. Even from outside, Maya could tell what was happening. Ethan leaned in, explaining each step with the same patience she remembered. The boy's brow furrowed, then slowly lifted into a grin when the numbers finally clicked. Ethan smiled too, tired, worn down, but real. Maya's throat tightened. He could have brushed the kid off, said he was busy, gone back to stacking shelves. But he didn't. Even here, away from the classroom, he was still the same Ethan, the boy who never let someone struggle alone. She pressed a hand against the cool glass of the window, torn between stepping inside and staying hidden. In the end, she turned away, her eyes stinging. The others at school thought Ethan had vanished, that he was gone for good. But Maya knew better now. He was still here, still giving, even if nobody was watching. The next morning, Maya couldn't keep it in. As soon as she sat with a small group of classmates before first period, the words tumbled out. She told them she had seen Ethan at the grocery, working late, lifting boxes, but still kneeling beside a little boy to explain a math problem, as if that was the most important thing in the world. A couple of kids listened with wide eyes. One of the girls whispered, "That sounds like him." But Tyler, lounging in his chair with his basketball tucked under his arm, let out a sharp laugh. "Seriously, Maya," he scoffed. "Helping a random kid with homework doesn't make him some saint. He's a dropout. A grocery clerk, that's all he is." His voice dripped with arrogance, the kind that made others laugh just to stay on his good side. A few chuckles scattered around, but they rang hollow. Maya felt heat rush to her cheeks, but this time she didn't stay quiet. "You weren't there," she shot back, her voice steady even as her hands trembled. "You didn't see the way he cared. He's still helping people, even when no one notices. Can you say the same, Tyler?" The laughter died instantly. Tyler's smirk faltered for just a second, though he quickly masked it with a shrug. "Whatever, believe what you want." But something had shifted. A boy in the back raised his hand hesitantly. "You know, Ethan helped me with my science project last year. He stayed late in the lab. I never even gave him credit." Another student spoke up. "He let me copy his notes when I was out sick for 2 weeks. Didn't make a big deal out of it." One by one, small confessions trickled out. Each story was quiet, almost guilty, as if they were only just realizing how much they had taken from Ethan without ever giving back. The classroom grew heavy with the weight of their silence. For the first time in months, Ethan's name wasn't just a roll call echo, it was alive again, whispered with shame, gratitude, and a longing none of them wanted to admit. The gym buzzed with excitement on the night of the awards ceremony. Folding chairs lined the stage, polished to look more important than they really were, while rows of parents filled the bleachers with phones ready to capture every moment. The band played a cheerful tune, but beneath the noise was an undercurrent of nerves. This was the night everyone wanted their name called. Students whispered predictions. Some cheered when their friends walked across the stage for academic honours. Others clapped politely as athletes collected their trophies. Tyler sat with his teammates, straightening his tie, grinning each time the spotlight swept across the crowd. He carried himself like a champion waiting for his crown. Maya sat a few rows back, her heart thudding. Each award handed out felt like a drumbeat pulling her closer to something she couldn't explain. And then the principal stepped up to the microphone and paused. His voice grew slower, softer, echoing across the gym, until even the restless whispers stilled. "This ceremony," he began, "is about more than grades or trophies. Tonight we honour not just accomplishments but character, the kind of character that shapes the lives of others quietly without asking for recognition." The room shifted, a ripple of curiosity running through the crowd. Parents leaned forward. Students exchanged confused glances. Tyler frowned, unsure why the speech wasn't leading to his name. The principal's gaze swept the students. "There is a chair in one of our classrooms that has been empty for many months, but empty does not mean forgotten. It belongs to a young man who gave his time freely, who lifted others up even as he carried burdens of his own." The silence in the gym was absolute now. Every student knew which chair he meant. Maya felt her throat tighten, her eyes stinging as she whispered the name in her mind before the principal even said it. "Tonight," the principal declared, holding up a small plaque, "we honour Ethan Carter." Gasps rippled through the audience, followed by a wave of applause that grew louder with every second. Parents turned to each other, asking who he was. Students bowed their heads, guilt and pride tangling in their chests. And in that moment, the empty chair was no longer invisible. it was the centerpiece of the night. At first, everyone thought the speech was finished. The principal held the plaque carefully, as if waiting for someone to claim it, but no one moved. The applause swelled, then faltered into a hush. All eyes drifted toward the row of empty seats on the stage, as if they knew the chair reserved for Ethan would remain unfilled. Then from the back of the gym, a stir began. A figure stood in the crowd of parents and siblings, hesitant at first. He wore a plain button-down shirt, one sleeve a little too short at the wrist, and scuffed sneakers that had seen more miles than most of the polished shoes around him. His shoulders were slightly hunched, like someone used to blending into the background. It was Ethan. Gasps broke out before the whispers could catch up. That's him. That's Ethan Carter. The gym seemed to exhale all at once. Maya's breath hitched, her hands gripping the edge of her chair. Tyler sat frozen, the cocky grin wiped from his face as if someone had erased it. Ethan walked slowly down the aisle. He didn't wave, didn't smile for the crowd. His eyes stayed low, his steps steady, almost reluctant, as though he couldn't quite believe the applause was meant for him. But the sound rose anyway, growing louder with each step until the gym shook with cheers. When he reached the stage, the principal stepped forward and placed a hand on his shoulder. For a moment, Ethan just stood there, caught between pride and disbelief. Then he accepted the plaque with both hands, holding it gently, as if it might slip away if he gripped it too tight. For the first time in months, Ethan wasn't just a name on a roll call or a memory tied to an empty desk. He was there, real and present, standing under the lights he had never asked for, but finally deserved. The cheers slowly quieted as Ethan stood on the stage, clutching the plaque as though it didn't quite belong to him. His eyes scanned the crowd, uncertain, until they landed on the rows of classmates who had once looked right past him. Some lowered their heads in shame, others met his gaze with something closer to apology. Then Maya rose. Her footsteps echoed softly across the gym floor as she made her way to the stage. In her hand, she held a small honor pin, the one she had earned earlier in the year. When she reached Ethan, she pressed it gently into his palm and whispered, "This should have been yours." The silence that followed was thick with emotion. And then something unexpected happened. One student after another began to move. They walked toward the desk that had been carried onto the stage, a desk identical to the empty one at the back of their classroom. One boy laid down a notebook, another placed a pencil. A girl slipped a folded note with the words "Thank you" scrawled across it. Even Tyler hesitated, his jaw tight as he pulled a small keychain from his pocket, the one he always carried from the basketball team, and set it on the desk without saying a word. Soon the desk was no longer bare. It was covered in tokens of gratitude, each one a silent confession of how Ethan had touched their lives. At last, Ethan sat down in the chair. The gym erupted again, not with the wild cheers of a game, but with the kind of applause that comes from the heart. The empty chair was empty no longer. It had become a symbol, not of absence, but of the quiet strength of someone who gave without ever asking. As the sound washed over him, Ethan looked out at his classmates. For the first time, he wasn't invisible. And for everyone in that gym, the lesson was clear. Real greatness isn't measured in trophies or titles, but in the lives you choose to lift when no one is watching. True worth is not measured by titles or trophies, but by the quiet ways we lift others when no one is watching. Thank you for staying with us until the very end of this story. I'm truly grateful for your time. If you found meaning here, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us share more stories that matter. I'll see you again soon, right here on Rain Inside.